As vice chair of the committee, I'll call the meeting of the Parks Committee to order. Alderman Nicholson, Alderman Johnson, Alderman Burnett are present. Alderman Weary is on his way to the meeting. Can I get a motion on the approval of the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Nicholson, seconded by Johnson to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I oppose. Motion carries. We have a motion on the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion made by Alderman Johnson, seconded by Alderman Nicholson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose. Motion carries. We're going a little too fast.
Yeah, let's just
Yeah,
hold
let's
on
slow down.
until they're
That's
ready.
fine.
You can go faster if it helps.
Who motioned the minutes?
That was
Johnson.
Johnson.
Nicholson? Second?
Johnson.
And second by Nicholson?
Nicholson.
Thanks.
Sounds good. Okay, now we move to regular business. Item 1, consideration with possible action on the request by Alder LaFave for discussion on best practices the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Department implements for mulching and mowing. Alderman LaFave, do you want to step forward?
This because I'm short. Yeah, I live at 1731 East Shore Circle, and right across from me is this little pie-shaped field, and then there's the Wildlife Sanctuary, and Bay Beach is just 3 houses over. And this has been going on a long time, and I've been talking to park board people, to other people about their mulching of the trees, especially in this area. Some of the mulch, I'm not kidding, it's this much on those trees. You don't do that. That's could kill a tree, younger one especially. And also underneath, because you use chipped trees and most of it is softwood, a lot of it, it breaks down fast. So if they should go around, take everything off, and underneath you would find this broken down humus, real rich, because all that wood had broken down. But they just keep piling on top, piling on top. So that also gives a great place for weeds to grow, the big ones, they'll grow in there. So then I've seen them out there spraying. I mean, we gotta watch our spraying. I don't believe we should be spraying all over. And if they would mulch properly like they should be, it should probably every other year maybe they could mulch. And they could have some people go out there and just pull the weeds. There's no reason for this. And I've even found at Bay Beach, I'm surprised that their bushes are okay, that the mice haven't gotten in, because they pile it around all the bushes too, and that's a good spot for mice to overwinter, and then they chew on the bottom and they can kill bushes. So I'm surprised. Don't have any mice there doing that, but that has happened to me. Something had grown up around, just grew up around the bottom, and kind of mulched it, and I had to cut the bush down. But so you have to look at this. You're wasting time by somebody hauling it all and spreading it. It's not good to put that much on at one time. You don't have it that thick on.
Is there Alder LaFave, is there a motion that you would suggest the committee make? What action would you like us to take?
That, I know the park department's busy, but I think they should be going around and looking at the situations. I don't know about other parks, but this is where I live and I see it all the time. Bay Beach, that little pie field across from me from the sanctuary. I see it all the time, the over mulching. And check it out, and where it shouldn't be, they're gonna have to start cleaning it out or something, because you could even lose a big tree if you keep piling it around the base of the tree. You have to see the what do they call that, swelling part? The flare.
Would you like
You're supposed to see that.
Would you like the committee to refer this to staff to speak with you directly, or come back to the committee?
Do you think?
Well,
What
here,
would you like?
I can talk a little
Sure.
bit about that. I guess I know when we discussed this earlier, you also mentioned you had concerns on mowing.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about that, and then I'll address both concerns at the same time.
Okay, sure. And they also, because they cut that pie field, they're cutting it way too short, especially now. I'm gonna tell you, we're gonna have a dry summer. The reason I could tell is my maple trees, I could fill, I bet, one of those big garbage cans full of the helicopters. I mean, they are dropping like crazy. And I think, that's an indication that they're dry, and they know it's gonna be dry coming up. And how trees, They have a good sense. So they do mow too short, that I'm finding. Especially that pie field, I mean, it's not level at all. And they're cutting off parts, just chopping it right off. But also, they're mowing when they shouldn't be mowing when it's been dry. 2 weeks no rain, grass isn't growing. And if you mow, you leave it 3 inches at least or higher, it doesn't grow as fast. You cut it short, it grows faster. So you do have to get out there more often. And I had mentioned this to the park department once before, and he says, well, there's weeds, so we gotta go and cut the weeds. So you're gonna take this huge mower out there with all the gas to run around to cut a few weeds. This is another thing I think that you can get somebody out there and just pull the weeds or whack them off. It's a simple, fast, thing that can be done. I notice from Bay Beach, they have these little four-wheelers. They're over there a lot, running around on it. Have them get out and just
Did you
whack a
wanna
few
comment
weeds if they
on-
need it.
Sure.
So those are things that, and then we can save energy by not cutting when you shouldn't be cutting, when it's too dry, there's nothing to cut. And the time, there's different things that you can save on this. And one thing I also want to say, lawnmowers, they found out, pollute more than your car does. That's your small riding lawnmower. These are big things. So that's another thing that we have to look at.
Dan, do you want to comment on some of the concerns?
Sure.
Anything in depth we could?
Yeah, so what I'll talk about is what our standard best management practices are for both mowing and mulching. And I'll talk a little bit about herbicide too, just so you know what we do. And then we can go from there and decide what sort of a motion you would want out of this. So for mulching, I'll start with that. So our best practice would be to install 2 to 4 inches of mulch. Typically 3 is what most people recommend. Around the trees, and then as that mulch breaks up over time, you would top it off on a yearly basis or every other year or as needed, just to keep that 2 to 4 inches of mulch on there. If too much is accidentally spread around the trees, you can damage the trees, so it can actually cause problems in the health. Some of those problems would be excessive moisture in the root zone, development of insects and disease problems. Also, if the mulch mats down too heavily, then water and air can't really sufficiently get to that root zone very easily. But what we do is we monitor. We have 2 foresters, and a city forester and an assistant city forester who are experienced and well-trained on maintenance of trees and mulching practices. And so they are regularly out in the parks and in the right-of-way of looking at this. And whenever they see a problem on a case-by-case basis, they do deal with it with staff to rectify the situation. Now, as far as that little triangle piece, I remember we had an issue there a couple of years ago, and I remember talking to you at one point. And what happened at that instance is we had volunteer group who requested to mulch around the trees and the plant beds and stuff. And there just wasn't adequate supervision for that. So it was kind of an isolated incident that time, and I believe we went in there and pulled some of that mulch out there after it was installed in that case.
But the city put a big dump truck load in there.
Okay.
And they come out, they put a big dump load there. I saw at Bay Beach, 2 or 3 dump loads full of mulch.
And that's our typical how we do it. So when we bring the mulch into the parks, we dump it off of a dump truck in one location, and then we spread it from there. So that's how we do it. So initially there'll be a big pile there, but as we have time, we spread it out and disperse it throughout the park. So I don't know if Mark wants to expand on that as far as whether or not our practices are working or if that can be improved or not, but that's how we manage it currently. So let me talk a little bit about the mowing, and then we can go for questions. So with the mowing, the general recommendation for turf is to mow it anywhere from 2.5 to 3 inches tall for best results in a standard lawn. But athletic fields should actually be mowed smaller or shorter because it just works better when you have a ball rolling on the athletic field. And that height varies from 1.5 inches to 3 inches tall, depending on what sport it is and how that field was built and whether or not you have irrigation and so on and so forth. We checked our mowers and verified that our mowers are set at 3 inches. So that's where all of our mowers are set currently. And our standard practice for mowing is to mow the entire park, including the athletic fields, at 3 inches. Back a few years ago, I don't remember how many years ago this was, Keith could probably answer this, but at one point, we tried to mow the athletic field shorter, closer to, more of the standard recommendation, and then keep the general turf a little bit longer at 3 inches. And what we found is all summer long, it always appeared to the residents as though the mowing was unfinished. It always looked half done because the athletic fields were shorter than the regular turf. So we only tried that for a year or so, and then we abandoned that practice, and now we mow everything at 3 inches. In general, most of the complaints that we get, nearly all of them, is that we're not mowing enough, and not that we're mowing too much. And that's especially in the case in the spring before we have our summer staff on hand. In the summer, then we can actually get caught up with it and keep it under control. On a handful of occasions over the past 30 years, Keith indicated that he did receive a couple of complaints where, employees were mowing basically brown grass in the middle of the summer. And in those instances, we talked to the park crews to make sure that that wasn't standard practice, that it was an isolated incident, and that it didn't continue. So we did address that occasionally over the past 30 years, but it's been very few occasions. So like I said, most of the complaints are we're not mowing enough. But in general, if you look at our turf in our parks, they're in pretty healthy condition, very few weeds, and they're doing very well in the athletic fields and the general turf areas. Now, I do want to address your concerns with the spraying, because I know you mentioned your concern about spraying herbicides in our areas. What we found is even when you mulch, when you're at home, you put down mulch, you still have to get out there on a regular basis and weed. And that weeding is very labor intensive, and it takes a long time and a lot of man hours to do. So what we do on a yearly basis is we spray a pre-emergent herbicide on all of our landscape beds to help keep the weeds down. Now, they still come up, throughout the summer, and we go in with weed whackers or pull them as needed. Excuse me. But we do spray almost all of our beds, and if we don't do that, we really won't be able to keep all of the weeding under control. So that's how our standard practice is. If it wants to be changed, or if you have questions for Keith and Mark, we can talk about that.
One thing in the spring, people complain about higher, but actually, I was told, and we do in our yard, we don't cut till we absolutely have to. I mean, we don't leave it at 6-7 inches. We leave it about 4 or 5, and that's the best practice, they said, because in the spring your grass grows a little faster than your weeds. You shade out your weeds, you'll have less weeds. So you don't have to be cutting right away. And people complain and say, well, this is best practice. Do you want weeds or do you want grass? And so, that's something too you could do. But if I look in that field, it's not 3 inches, it's short. I don't know if the mowers are set, they say 3 inches, but I don't know if it's right because it's pretty short. And right now, you don't need to cut. It hasn't rained. We haven't gotten any rain in what? Got a 1/4 inch more than a week ago. Mm-hmm. And you have to have an inch, at least a week, for good growth. So this is something too, I think, you should look at the rain. How much rain we're getting for the week, do you need to go out and cut?
And I think Keith can probably speak to that a little bit on whether or not it's just a regular rotation or as needed as the summer progresses and it gets drier. I think he could probably answer that a little bit.
Yeah, that's not concerned, because I've seen them out there cutting when it did not need to be cut. There was nothing to cut, and it was blowing dust all over.
Bay Beach is our premier park, so we want it to look nice. So some people may have an opposite opinion as to when grass is long that it looks good and healthy. Some people like it more trimmed. I know people in this town that mow their grass at 1 inch. I wouldn't recommend that, but I'm not gonna argue with them. We like to have Bay Beach looking nice and trim and green and clean. So sometimes they may mow more often than you think they should, but we want the park to look really nice when visitors show up. So I
It's
can
not
check
gonna look, if we
with,
don't have rain for a long time and you're cutting too short, it's gonna end up being brown. It's not gonna look nice.
right, but
So
there
that's
is,
the thing you gotta look at too.
right, but there are shady areas too that the grass grows, and when I'm mowing from shade to sun, sometimes I have to go over the brown grass to get to the green grass. It's an inexact science, and when you have your own yard to maintain, you can have a lot of control over it. When you have thousands of acres with certain, only so many people and 16-foot mowers, you can't be that detailed, and so we try to do the best we can.
I did just want to make one more point in addition to, in regards to the spring mowing. So in the past, we've received a lot of complaints, and this typically happens yearly, that although the grass might not be that long, there's excessive dandelions, and people complain about that. So we do try and get out and mow the dandelions too, because that's a concern that we've had from a lot of residents who come to the parks. So
We'll do a lot of double mowing at Bay Beach Memorial Day, because those deadheads will come up in 2 days.
Oh, yeah.
So you can mow the whole park,
I know.
and we're back out there 2 days later, because the weekend's coming for Memorial Day weekend. You got those deadheads, and the place looks awful. So we mow again, just to get rid of the deadheads.
Thank you.
Yeah,
If
then you're spreading it all over. Actually, I don't like spring as much, but maybe that's one thing you should. If you got so many dandelions that you have to go out and cut dandelions down, maybe that should be treated, to cut those back.
Alder,
We're not
You know.
budgeted for that.
I
Alder
know,
LaFave,
but maybe that might be something.
If I could, I think they've addressed many of the concerns, and any additional concerns you had, if you just work with them directly to get the answers. And I think it would be sufficient to have a motion to receive and place on file.
I would
Unless there's
just,
questions.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
I think all of you should take a walk around. I mean, just take a look too, and see.
Sure.
and I would just make a comment. Fun fact, I used to own a lawn care and landscape management company, and so I just want to corroborate everything that Dan shared with best practices is exactly what you would see in a for-profit business as well. So I have 100% faith and trust that that's the right practice. Now, whether or not the practice is being followed, I think that is something that as well I would encourage that we work with staff directly to make corrections where necessary. And so, I mean, with that, I would make a motion to receive and place on file.
Okay. Okay, get a second? I'll second. Any discussion? Okay. Motion to receive and place on file, made by Alder Johnson, second by Alderman Burnett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I oppose. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Alder LaFave. With that agenda item closing, I'll give the floor
I'll
to
keep talking.
Chairman Weary.
But
who
I would
has-
like you to take a tour out
Sure.
there and just take a look, and I can, just show you some things that
Thank you.
have happened out there.
And thank you. For the record, Alderman Weary is here and will continue as chair of the committee.
Thank you, Alderman Burnett. We're on item 2, consideration with possible action on the request by Alderman Vanderleest to increase public communication on caring for diseased trees in Green Bay so residents are more informed on how to identify diseased trees and steps to get the city forestry department involved. Alderman Vanderleest?
I got one item next coming up as well, so I'll just, the forester talked to me and he just gave me some information on it, and it is on our website, so I think that's kind of been addressed, that about the.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Second?
All right, motion by Alderman Nicholson, second by Alderman Burnett to receive and place on file. Is that right with you,
That'd be
Alderman
good.
Vanderleest?
And I got some information, if you want any pamphlets, I got them handy, and
So there-
we can get them distributed. Is mine, the next item about the monument?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just stay up here for that, then I'll just talk.
Those in favor of receiving and place on file?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Item number 3, consideration with possible action on the request by Alderman Vanderleest for an update on the fundraising for the 9/11 Memorial Monument next to the Neville Public Museum. Alderman Vanderleest.
Okay, we talked about it last fall, and I just kind of wondered where we're at on that, if we're going to make any progress on it. I know we've talked about it, that it was designated for that spot. I know that they, decommissioned the beam and everything out of there, and they have it at the police station. But it was, my reason for coming forward on it is that, we were looking at doing fundraising, and we needed probably about 100,000, and we were gonna reach out to the community, both Green Bay and Brown County, to see if we could get some money generated to actually put the monument back where it was originally. And I think we did have a discussion on it, but I don't think we got pretty busy on a lot of other things in the fall there. And, through the winter, we just kind of I think it might have got just misplaced. So that's why I'm bringing it back. So if we could, have it, do some advertising or whatever we got to do, locally or whatever through the city staff. And if we could also get the county involved as well and get the money raised. We're not looking at a lot of money, but, 100,000 or whatever we're talking about to get it up to par. And so I guess that's kind of where I'm at. If we could, move forward on the fundraising and see if we can get it, moving.
Well, why don't we get an update from staff, see if they've heard anything?
Sure. Since two of you weren't on the committee at the time, I'll just give you a very brief summary, a few sentences long. So, if you're not aware of it, the existing 9/11 memorial over by the Neville Museum is in need of repair. So the granite has significant cracks in it, and the lettering has kind of faded to the point where you can't even read most of the names that are on it. So at this point, our options are either remove it entirely, fix what's there, or to redesign it and put it somewhere else. And those three options were discussed last fall. At the time, the Park Committee and City Council gave the approval to begin a fundraising effort to fundraise to keep the existing memorial in place and repair it. As Alderman Vanderlee said, the anticipated cost to repair it is about $100,000. So when we were talking about repairing it, there was an individual who was at the Park Committee, and she was part of the original committee that did the initial fundraising and handled the construction of that monument when it was first installed. And she indicated at the time that she was more than willing to help with the fundraise and lead the effort on that. So I did have a conversation with her. This is now several months later. Asked her where we sit with fundraising efforts. And what she said is, to date, no funds have been raised for the repair of the monument. Really what happened was every individual or person she called to ask for money or request money was very supportive of the efforts, but they felt that they really needed somebody from the city, an alderman, or from the county board, or somebody to take the lead and speak on behalf of the city, saying, we want to repair this. We're giving Barb Jack approval to do the fundraising, and everything's legit. So she kind of ran into a stumbling block because she was the only person fundraising. So basically what she told me is, unless somebody comes forward from the city or from the county or somebody with influence to help her fundraise, form a committee, and start help with the asks, the fundraising really isn't going to go anywhere. So that's where we sit right now. So I would say the odds of having the monument repaired by the 9/11 anniversary of this year, it's kind of slipping away. We're running out of time because we don't have the $100,000 to do the repairs. So at this point, I guess your options are to either receive and place on file the update on the fundraising effort, because that was actually what the agenda item was just to give you an update. But if you want to talk about what next steps would be, we can have those discussions, and that can be added to any motion.
Alderman Vanderleest, would you like to join the fundraising committee?
I would join the fundraising.
All right.
All right. I think perhaps we can put Ms. Jaggs in touch with you, Alderman Vanderleest. I know she's reached out to me a few times and been busy with a number of other things, namely Colburn Pool, and I think I've had my fill of fundraising for a little bit.
All right.
So
We can see what we can
yeah.
get done.
And I think it's something that the community would embrace. They just need to see a face of it, I think, in the community is what she's trying to say is,
And I think pulling a few people together too that are passionate about seeing its restoration would be useful. I've seen very few fundraising campaigns that involve one person making an ask. Usually there's at least a committee.
Okay.
Maybe there's a, veteran group or something out there that might be willing to help as well.
I'll pursue that interest as far as what you're speaking of there. I think it's a good suggestion. Okay, thank you very much for your.
The motion could then be to receive and place on file the update on fundraising efforts for the repair of the memorial and to continue the fundraising efforts. It could be something like that.
So do we currently have authority? Does this committee have authority to raise money on behalf of the city to make those improvements?
The park committee gave the approval to Mrs. Jack to conduct a fundraising campaign
Okay.
on behalf of the city. So that was the motion, I think that was made last fall, and then that was approved at council.
And
So if we had checks made out, would they make them out to the city of Green Bay, quote, 9/11 memorial?
We would have to have those discussions on how that funding would be set up and where the checks would be deposited. That hasn't been worked out yet.
Okay, all right. Okay, then thank you for your information, and whatever is your pleasure is there, I think we can get started on it then.
Move and replace, move to place on file, receive and place on file.
Motion by Alderman Johnson,
Second.
second by Alderman Burnett, to receive and place on file. Any discussion on that item?
Is the motion to then continue with fundraising efforts, is that part of the motion too, or is it just?
Yeah, I think my
receive and
motion
place
is to
on
take
file?
this report and receive it, but not to
Okay.
dismantle anything that's already in place.
Okay, so then we could just say receive and place on file the report then.
Thank you.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Consideration with possible action on the request for Alderman Weir for staff to compile or contract out a list of all City of Green Bay council presidents and dates served as such, and a plaque bearing this information shall be displayed in the second floor hallway.
How big you want this plaque?
All right. So I can summarize this for you. So we did contact the Brown County Library's local history and genealogy department to see if they had any historic information for this on file. Library staff did indicate that they did already complete this research in 2017 per Alderman Weary's request. So the information's out there. What I handed to you is a list of all of the presidents. And what you'll see here is there are council presidents for the city of Green Bay, but then the last page are council presidents for the city of Fort Howard before it was annexed to Green Bay. Now, these dates kind of overlap. The Green Bay one starts in 1954, and the Fort Howard one 1854, and the Fort Howard one starts in 1873. So the first decision, if this goes forward, is do we include the council presidents from the city of Fort Howard before it was annexed to Green Bay? So the research end of thing has been done. So if you go over this list, you'll see that there's a total of 81 council presidents for Green Bay and 17 council presidents for the city of Fort Howard. So if this were to be approved, we would have to decide, like I said, if Fort Howard would be part of this discussion. The cost for the plaque depends entirely on what the final desired look and size is going to be. So if we're simply looking at installing a wood plaque and attach separate engraved names with dates to that plaque and just have, 80 to 100 names on there, we would estimate the cost to be maybe around $2,000. Now, we didn't actually get a formal estimate on that because we weren't sure if that's what you were looking for. If you're looking for something grander, then the cost could be significantly higher than that. If you're looking at an individual plaque for each one, kind of like what's down on the second floor now, you could be looking at $10,000 or more. So, we would need more information. So, at this point, the Parks Department really doesn't have the funding for the plaques. So if you do approve this request, then we'd have to get more specifics on what you had in mind for the type of plaques and then where you would anticipate the funding for it to come from.
I appreciate it. I didn't even know this was completed. It never got back to me, so I figured it just fell into a black hole somewhere. This is excellent. I brought this up in the past, how I think in the history of Green Bay and Fort Howard, it's important to stay in touch with what those have gone before you have done, not just, from the mayor's office, but from the city council. We're a team, and I think this just shows a history of who's been involved and who's gone on to do bigger and better things or become mayor. And really, you see a lot of street names in here and different, park names in Green Bay. And I don't think it needs to be anything extravagant, just something simple that, you can add to, for the next 150 years. So really, I think if we just refer this to your office to draw up a basic plaque design, something that can be added to, that would be more than enough. I don't know what the thoughts of the committee are, but.
Want to chair a fundraising committee?
Well, I'm pretty sure this is something that we can find a budget for within
No,
the
it's
city.
easy.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I was just saying, got fundraising words. Here comes a good fundraiser right here.
Ask all the past presidents.
That's right.
Chris Weary.
Eben Kendall, I think he's gone. Now, did you have any questions of staff or myself? I think you should include both, because Fort Howard, right, Alderman Nicholson is just as important to the history of Green Bay as the city of Green Bay.
That's a matter of opinion. Are we talking about Green Bay or Fort Howard? I guess we have to determine that. I guess I'd push for Green Bay, because Fort Howard doesn't exist anymore. That's my opinion.
What are your wishes, or do you have any questions? Alderman Burnett?
No, I'm not going to make a motion. If I could, I have respect for what you're attempting to do, and it's a good idea. I'm against the idea of recognizing council presidents. I have a lot of respect for those who have served this community in that capacity. I just think $2,000, there's other things throughout the community that could be put towards, rather than acknowledging council presidents, as much as I respect those who have served in that capacity. So I don't know what motion I can make to that effect. I'll wait for.
I would wonder, 2,000 even seems like an extravagant amount for something pretty basic and simple. A list of names,
Yeah, and we'd have to figure out if that, we weren't sure what you were
Sure.
looking at and what you envisioned for that. So, if you do vote to approve this, then we would then go out and get a cost estimate and give you a more accurate price, now that we know how many names we would go with if it's just the city of Green Bay council.
We did reach out to some places that make these things, and they
Yep.
needed very particular detailed dimensions and how many letters and,
Sure.
so how you want it written. So that's why we can't really give you an exact quote.
it might be worthwhile at least reaching out and coming back with 2 or 3 designs and say, hey, these are real basic and simple, I just think if we can have the mayor's pictures all up and down the hall, why not throw something towards the city council and say, hey, here's been the leaders of the city council for the past 150 years. I don't see why that's so egregious.
Question.
Alderman Nicholson.
Are you, Chris, are you looking for like pictures?
No,
Okay.
a simple list of names.
Just
No,
'cause-
you couldn't even go back and probably get some of these pictures of some of these people.
Okay. Then wouldn't it be inexpensive, like what high schools do with, they have their, some type of like, what do you call it, like athlete and scholastic
Yeah.
person of the year, they'll have a
Yep.
piece of wood that's shellacked with a little brass tag.
Yep.
I mean, is that really gonna be expensive, do you think?
Well, depending on how many names, and, it could range anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000. I wouldn't expect it to be much under 1,000, for
Okay.
sure. So, we can, now that we know that that's what you're looking for, we can put together a more refined estimate.
All right. I mean, that's what you're looking
Yeah,
for.
yeah, nothing-
Something simple, right?
Yes,
Okay.
simple.
Huh?
We don't need the color photos of the mayors. We just have their names or dates served. We'll make a motion to refer this to staff to bring back a couple designs and estimates along what we discussed. and then we can take it from there, what we want to do.
I'll second it.
Second by Alderman Johnson, any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No, if I could be recorded as a no.
Yeah, I think you guys, if there's a no, I think we do have to vote on the tablets, if I recall correctly.
1 second. Okay, let me get it going here. All right, should be, oh, hold on. Start the vote. Here we go. That motion passes 3-1.
I appreciate it and look forward to hearing back from you.
Okay.
Number 5, consideration with possible action on the request by Wisconsin Public Service for a 12-foot wide gas easement on the west side of Dan's through the wildlife sanctuary property.
Now, I don't think the graphics printed accurately in your agenda packet, so I just reprinted hard copies for you to look at right now.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, so at the March 28th Park Committee meeting, the committee approved granting an easement to Wisconsin Public Service for the installation of a gas regulator station on the wildlife sanctuary property at the south end of Dan's Avenue. So if you look at this overall map, you'll see a little box or a little rectangle at the south end of Dan's. That's where that easement was approved. Shortly after that approval, Wisconsin Public Service requested a second easement to actually install the new gas line to connect to this new gas regulator station. So this proposed gas line would be placed within a 12-foot wide easement that would run along the west side of Dan's Avenue through the sanctuary property. This easement would be contained in the grass area located between the road pavement and the perimeter fence surrounding the wildlife sanctuary. So the easement does not actually go into the sanctuary property. It's officially city property or park property, but it doesn't go into the fenced area. This entire strip is currently mowed turf, and there's a few trees in there. I did talk to Wisconsin Public Service, and they did indicate that the larger trees on the north end would be protected by boring the gas line instead of trenching it. So there's a few large cottonwood trees on the north end, which will be protected. But the majority of the strip is just mowed turf. So if this easement is not approved, the proposed gas line would instead be installed in the existing easement within the road right-of-way. It can be installed, but it would be more expensive and more difficult than if the city grants this easement to WPS. So staff has reviewed this, and we are supportive of this request because for two reasons. One, it does not extend into the fenced-in area of the sanctuary, and two, the larger trees would be protected. There is somebody here from WPS. If you do want to open the floor, she can answer any additional questions you might have, or if you have questions for me, that's fine too.
Any questions from the committee? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion by Alderman
Second.
Johnson, second by Alderman Burnett to approve. Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 6, consideration with possible action on the report by staff of expenses incurred to open Colburn Pool for 2018 season. Thanks. Who gets this one?
I'll handle this.
All right.
So, last April, a few months ago, staff presented the Colburn Pool renovation plan to keep the existing pool and bathhouse in place for the next 15 to 20 years. This report outlined a full list of anticipated repairs. Some of these repairs did need to be completed fairly quickly in order to open the pool for the 2018 season. And the rest of the repairs in the report would be completed after the pool season is done and for 2018, but before we open in 2019. Because this plan was not approved until April, and some of the repairs had to be done in a very quick manner without delaying the opening, to avoid delaying the opening of the pool. The park committee did give staff approval to spend up to $200,000 to go towards these necessary repairs and improvements that were spelled out in the plan that was presented, just to get the pool up and running for the season, and then report back with a total list of what we spent the money on. So what I just handed out to you is a summary of the expenses we incurred. We did not exceed the $200,000. We're at about $141,000 that was spent. Work completed this spring included asbestos removal in the mechanical room, engineering for the replacement of the pool heaters. We did replace the caulk, all of the caulk in the pool basin, and repaired several concrete areas that were failing in the concrete walls. In addition, we replaced the chemical system controller, we replaced the pool controller, we purchased new lifeguard chairs, and we also purchased inflatables for the pool, which were installed today, by the way. And then in addition, we did some electrical work in the mechanical room and replaced the 2 pool heaters. So like I said, in total, we spent $141,000. As far as the status of the pool, our intention is to open the pool on Friday. So we didn't get the pool heaters until Monday of this week, so that delayed our opening. So we installed the pool heaters. It takes a couple of days to heat it up to the proper temperatures. So we think we'll be ready to open on Friday, which is great. One note that I did want to make is in regards to the lifeguard chairs. So we did purchase new lifeguard chairs. We purchased 7 of them. We purchased 5 that are permanent in-ground mounted lifeguard chairs, and then we purchased 2 portable chairs. What we found when we took them out of the box this week to install them is that with the standard installation method, we will not be able to install them until next fall. So we're gonna, although we purchased the chairs with the anticipation of installing them this spring, we are gonna have to wait until the fall because it's gonna involve ripping up a portion of the deck and repouring some of the concrete. And it's just a more involved process than we thought it was going to be. And in addition, we have to do some engineering with it to make sure that it's safely attached to the concrete. So those will not get done. The existing lifeguard chairs are adequate, they're safe. So we feel that we can get by another season with the existing chairs that are there. But at this point, we don't have an option. So I did just want to make that note. So that's a summary of where we're at with the pool. Like I said, the inflatables were installed today. They look great if you want to go out and take a look at them. I know a lot of people were going by taking pictures today, so they were pretty excited about it.
What is that? Toys?
These are inflatable things that kids can climb on, jump off of, and so it's kind of a lot of places that have lake swimming. You'll see these in lakes or in larger pools like in the Dells. You'll see some of these in some of their pools. So it's just an added attraction that isn't in any of our other pools. So we're hoping that it'll be a draw to the community and help bring people out to Colburn.
Question
Yeah.
regarding the chairs.
Yes.
Who determines and what method is used to determine if the chairs are safe? Is that city staff just inspecting them?
City staff, we inspect them on a regular basis. We repair them or replace them as needed. We inspected them thoroughly last year and they're in good condition.
Okay.
So
But has there recently
there's,
been like a risk audit or something that is common in parks departments? And like when I was on the county board, that they would audit or inspect every park for safety. Is that something that has been done?
to my knowledge, that hasn't been done at that pool.
Okay, but so it's city staff's best determination that the chairs are
Correct.
safe?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Has there been any, thank you, Alderman, has there been any thought to, especially back here on the shallower end, doing something temporary? Do we have to have a
Well,
temporary
we do
chair?
have the 2 movable chairs, so we're gonna place those in appropriate locations.
So-
So we are able to use those 2 portable chairs and place them where we need them.
So the chair, or the 2 chairs kind of in the shallower end, we might not be using them. We would use the portable chairs.
Can you answer that, James?
Our plan is to use those portable chairs. Actually, they're really a nice system. We just had them put up today too, actually, and Ann was over there and she said she really likes, for this summer at least, temporary, but they are adequate and we'll use them in the locations we need to.
I think we all know what we're talking about, where, a lifeguard got hurt on one of those chairs. And so I don't want that chair used. I don't think it should be. And that's why, especially on the shallow end.
Sure.
Yeah, I probably don't want to comment on it because it's some ongoing things right now, but Alderman Burnett alluded to it, and we want to make sure that the equipment that our staff is using is safe. So,
Yeah, the equipment that we'll be using to open the pool will all be safe.
as long as that, if that particular chair is going to be used, it's going to be a portable one, I'm comfortable with that. So, any other questions from the committee? Appreciate all the hard work, you gave a couple tours, and there were a lot of people working. There was a Ameriprise was out there, scraping, and, a bunch of people from Ameriprise scraping and painting and doing a lot of work. And,
Yeah, it's a community effort.
yeah, it was, it's looking good, and there's going to be a lot of changes this fall. But now, as part of this, are you going to come back and request what will happen this fall? Do you want
Well, we
guidance
already,
from the committee?
I can give you a brief summary for those of you who weren't involved with this. So basically, what our intentions are is to replace all of the pool mechanicals in the mechanical room. So replace the pump, the filters, all of that would need to get done. And then we're going to install a liner, a PVC liner in the basin of the pool to protect the concrete from additional spalling and damage. In addition, we are going to replace the gutters as part of that also. And then for the building, what we're going to be doing is a lot of cosmetic improvements. So we are going to level some concrete areas that have settled. We're going to be doing some tiling on the floor. We'll be giving the bathrooms a facelift. We'll replace the main counter in the front lobby. We'll replace all the doors and windows, and then we'll paint the whole facility. I think we're going to re-roof it too, re-shingle it, because it's kind of on its last leg. So, but a lot of the stuff in the building is just strictly cosmetic. We haven't really updated anything in the 50 years the pool's been there, so it's just a much-needed facelift. So yeah, what we'll be doing, one other project we'll be doing is we are going to be building an overflow parking area for the pool. So we'll be bringing those projects to you as we bid them out. So it won't be a lump sum big project by a general contractor. We're going to be kind of quoting out portions of it at a time and breaking it up into several projects. So, and as those need to get approved, we'll bring them forward to the committee. Some of those will go to INS as public bid projects, like the liner and the mechanical and the parking. But all the smaller stuff would come to the park committee for approval. So,
Any questions from the committee?
Motion to receive and place on file.
Motion to receive and place on file by Alderman Burnett, second by Alderman Nicholson. Discussion, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried, thank you. Number 7, consideration with possible action to approve accepting a $7,500 grant from the 2018 Wisconsin RPC and DNR Great Lakes Basin Tree Planting Grant Program.
So last March, the park committee did give staff approval to apply for this tree planting grant. The grant is sponsored by Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, along with the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. Funded projects were to focus on planting trees to mitigate the impact of the emerald ash borer and reduce runoff in the urban communities. Our grant application was actually for $15,000 to purchase and plant 125 trees in various parks throughout the city. The grant award was for $7,500, so half of what we requested. So what that means is instead of planting 125 trees, we'll plant either 62 or 63 trees throughout the park system. So there is a required 25% match, which is $1,875. And that will come from the cost of the labor of the forestry crews or volunteers to plant these trees. So it's not an actual payment that we have to make. we can bill out the labor time for our crews to do that work. And that is an adequate match to this grant. So per city policy, we are required to have park committee and city council approval to formally accept any grant. So that's why we're bringing this one forward for approval.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Johnson, second by Alderman Nicholson to approve. Discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 8, consideration with possible action to allow staff to submit a $50,000 Wisconsin Coastal Management Grant application for the East River Trail engineering.
So in your agenda packet, I have information. I have the cover sheet from the application. I have a map of what we're proposing to do. That's in your application, or in your agenda packet. So for this one, staff was contacted by a grant representative for the Wisconsin Coastal Management Grant Program. And they have about $50,000 available in unspent funding from other grant projects. We worked with them successfully in the past. They like the projects we've done with them, so they asked if we had any projects that we'd be interested in submitting an application for. And their main requirement is they wanted a project that could be done fairly quickly because they'd like to spend that money in a quick manner. So what staff is proposing to do is to submit a grant application to hire an engineering consultant to complete the conceptual design and engineering documents for the East River Trail for the one block section along Main Street that runs from Baird to Irwin Avenue. And you'll see that on the map in your agenda packet. The anticipated cost for this engineering is $50,000. A match for this grant is not required because this isn't a traditional grant. This is just kind of leftover money that they have. Typically, this grant would be a 60-40 match, where we would have to come up with 60% of the funding. But in this case, if they like the project, they would consider funding 100% of it. For this particular project in 2012, this grant funded an engineering study for this section of the trail so that we could do an engineering analysis if the trail was even feasible. It is feasible. We've been buying up the properties over time, and now we currently own all of the properties in this one block section. Now, this one block section is the most visible section of the trail. Prior to acquiring these parcels, the entire block was lined with old commercial structures that were built from the river all the way to the sidewalk, and there was no room for a trail. And a lot of those buildings were eyesores. They were kind of beat up and run down. So after we purchased them, we tore the buildings down in preparation for the trail. And currently it's a grass green space. So the desire would be to develop this one block section as a unique urban plaza with a trail incorporated through the design versus a standard 10-foot wide asphalt trail. So create more of a destination or focal point for people going up and down Main Street, because this is literally fronting Main Street and it's a very visible section. So if this grant were to be approved, the selected engineering consultant would finalize a conceptual design for this urban plaza, apply for all relevant permits, and complete the construction documents so that this could be bid out as soon as funding is acquired for the actual construction of this urban plaza. So like I said, the desire is to make this a visual showcase for the city instead of just a 10-foot wide trail. Typically, staff would request approval from the park committee prior to the application deadline, but since this was not a typical grant project, there was no set deadline. So we were asked a while back to submit an application fairly quickly, and that just didn't fit into the timeline for the council meetings being once a month and park committee being once a month. So we did discuss this with Alderman Weary as the chair and asked if it was okay if we could submit the grant application early without committee discussion, and he authorized that, so we went ahead and submitted the application. Now, if you're not, we're hoping that you're supportive of this project and you'll continue to allow us to go through the application process. If you do have a concern with it, we can withdraw our application and pull it out if that's a concern of yours. But we think it's a great project. We think it'd be a great amenity to the city, and it's just a great spot to do something unique and special. So And this provides the means to engineer it at no cost to the city.
Questions from the committee?
Were there
Alderman
any
Johnson?
other projects that were considered? If so, what were they?
We don't, for the city? Or
I mean,
in
when
general
you were
throughout?
talking about what can we submit this grant for, what other things were discussed?
Well, they have certain requirements, so basically it has to be something along the Great Lakes or very close to it. So it has to be along the waterway. So any project you pick has to do that. They do feel East River is an offshoot of the bay, so they do incorporate that. When we were looking at projects, what they liked about this project was the fact that they did a previous engineering study for this, and it was kind of phase 2 of implementing it. So when we talked about different projects, we talked about a couple other ones. We talked about, something at the Metro Boat Launch, talked a little bit about Bay Beach and projects that could be done out there. But they were actually pretty excited about this one because it's taking kind of the next step to a grant that they've already funded. So,
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion by Alderman Johnson, second by Alderman Nicholson to approve. Discussion. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We'll never turn down grant money.
hopefully we'll get it. And if we do get it, we'll be back to request approval to accept the grant.
Did you run Colburn by him? It's kind of by the way.
It's a waterway.
Sorta. All right, number 9, consideration with possible action on the approval to purchase play equipment from Gorick Inc. for $13,904 for the downtown pocket park.
So if you recall, or some of you recall, earlier this spring, the city council bonded $60,000 towards the installation of a downtown pocket park. This pocket park would be placed on Smet's property. Currently, Smet owns this property. We're working with them to get an easement or a lease or a property trade. So we're currently working through that issue, but it's currently owned by Smet. This is just west of the Northland Hotel. The vision for this pocket park was to create an artistic sculptural playground instead of the standard play structure incorporating decks and slides. So at the time that the funding was approved, there was no conceptual design that went along with it. It was just, if the funding is approved, we'll bring a concept to you. So since then, park staff, we've been working pretty hard on developing this concept and what it could be, and looking at the vision of this. So what we're looking at doing is removing the existing concrete that's currently in front of this plaza space and replace it with a series of mounds and playground balls that children can safely climb on and interact with. So the entire surface that you see here, the red and blue areas, would be covered with rubberized playground surfacing. And that's like a poured-in-place cushion, basically, that's very colorful. And then we would create 3 separate mounds, which are the blue areas. So those would be kind of larger mounds that kids could climb on. And those mounds would range anywhere from 2 to 4 feet tall. So it's just kind of an organic mounded space. And then throughout the mounding, there's 22 round circular and half circular balls of various sizes. So you can see those are the little red dots. So children would be able to climb from ball to ball and to make this an interactive space. So in essence, what we're creating is a sculpture that can be played on. So what we're requesting here is approval to purchase 22 balls from Gorick Inc. for a total cost of $13,904. So those are those red balls that you see in the kind of the middle picture. That's what we're purchasing for that price. This would be a sole source provider, so we have not been able to find any other companies that manufacture and sell any playground equipment similar to this with the look and the aesthetics that we're going for. So, and this is a purchase only. So after the city purchases them, what we'll be doing is we'll be hiring a contractor to actually build this. And then the contractor will take these balls and actually install them when they install the rubberized surfacing and all the contouring and the landscaping that goes along with it. So at this point, all that we're doing is asking for approval to go ahead and purchase the balls, the play equipment balls from Gorick Inc. for $13,904.
Thank you, Dan. What was the total project cost, or what was that?
What was approved was $60,000 that the city was going to put into it, and then another additional $40,000 in fundraising for this project, making it a $100,000 project. What we're doing here is this part that's shaped, in the different playground motif with the the mounding and the balls. We're anticipating that to be pretty close to the $60,000. The $40,000, where that will come is SMET is donating $40,000 towards this project to green up kind of that loading dock area and to redo their fencing to hide the dumpsters. So their $40,000 donation would be going towards kind of greening up the whole site in addition. So that's money that the city wouldn't have to spend to do that. If you're familiar with that area, I do have a picture here so you can see it. You can pass this around.
So you anticipate everything should be able to be done with that budget?
For our $60,000, the playground portion would be done. If you look here, what you'll see, let me just hold this up. So what you see here, what SMET is going to do is you got this whole loading dock area, which is all concrete and dumpsters. What they want to do, when that was put in, this was a mall, and that loading dock was necessary for the mall purposes. They still need a loading dock, but nothing substantially as large as this. So what they are going to do is remove this entire concrete section and do a single driveway going in. Everything else will be planted with grass and trees to green it up. And then in addition, you'll see a little wall along this edge. They're going to actually continue this wall and kind of hide the dumpsters and the loading dock area that they are keeping. So they are going to be visually hiding that space. So that's what.
If you could hold it up again, Dan.
Sure.
Will the loading dock come out this way?
No,
I'm trying
it'll
to see
still.
how this fits on there.
How it fits right here is this playground is right in front of this building.
So it's not in front of the driveway?
No, it's in front of here, and you can see the driveway in this image. That's where the loading dock is. But you can see a lot of grass around that driveway, but if you look now, it's all concrete and asphalt, so.
Seating, I assume there'll be seating, a lot of people who bring their kids or whatever, they're gonna wanna sit.
Yeah, we're
grandparents,
gonna purchase a few benches and place them in there. You can see those on that concept. There's like 2 or 3 of them on there. In addition, we'll add some trees right into the playground area
Shade.
to get some shade in there, but just, give it a little visual interest, get some vertical height there, and just make it more sculptural.
Questions from the committee? Alder Dorf?
I just wondered, is there going to be, is it a splash pad? Because it shows fountains in the picture.
No, that is not a splash pad. So basically, you see that blue circle with the wave pattern? That is a mound. So it'll be various heights. So there's basically 3 hills with smaller hills connecting it. And it'll just be a large mound that'll be colored the blue wave pattern with the
So the
rubberized surface.
fountain is not part of
There
it?
is no
That's-
fountain at all.
Okay, it just shows one in the little,
Oh, I see, in that little
In the
picture in the background?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a picture showing what the balls look like that we're proposing to purchase.
okay.
So yeah, there is no water feature attached to this. It's just contouring and rubberized surfacing and.
Alder Burnett, thank you.
Dan, how was this initiated? Like, is this a project the city had planned and then the community came around it, or was it SMET?
Yeah, it was a project that I believe the city initiated as a desire because of all the residential that's being built there. Plus with the Northland Hotel being completed there was a desire to kind of clean up this corner. So it was initiated by the city, and staff requested funding as part of the bond request this year as part of it.
Was it on the list of projects for a very long time, or was
No,
it just?
it came up. It came up recently. Again, it kind of came up with the Hotel Northland moving forward and actually showing a completion date. But It's a project that was not on our project list a few years ago.
Right, but the money's approved to
Correct.
bond up to $60,000, and this
Yep.
$13,000 be part of that $60,000.
Correct. No.
So my frustration, being an alderman on the far west side, is west of Packerland, two city parks. And I understand that there are people moving downtown and we want amenities for children, but literally walk through the 12th district or drive through the 12th district, you will see nothing for kids to do in a purely residential area. So it's not your fault, as I understand it, there's projects and lists, but where do parks in the 12th district on the far west side fall within this order, pecking order?
I will tell you that when this project was first proposed, those same concerns were brought up by the aldermen on the park committee, and we discussed that in detail. As far as, this being a new project, should we fund it because it's a new project, or should it wait its turn? So there was a lengthy discussion on that when this project was presented and brought forward, if I recall correctly. Or at least a discussion on it. I don't know if it was lengthy, but it was the discussion.
I think the other note is that it's bonded 60,000, but it's also going to be repaid by the TIF district. So that 60,000 actually was approved to bond initially, but then eventually it'll be repaid through the TIF funding. That was how the motion was approved.
Correct. So the TIF for this district will make the bond payments.
So it really won't come.
Yeah, it's a public amenity that goes with a big development. I understand that. Thank you, James.
Alderman Johnson? Sure. We'll open the floor up. Did you want to do that right now, or did you want to ask your question? Alderman
To open the
Johnson?
floor.
Okay.
Make a motion to open the floor.
Motion by Alderman Burnett, second by Alderman Nicholson to open the floor for any interested parties. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. If you could just please come up and give your name.
Real quick, can I just get
one question.
motion?
It was Burnett and Nicholson.
Okay.
I just need you to come up and give your name and address so we can hear you.
I didn't sign.
That's okay.
It was very quick. Do you want me to?
Yeah, just name and address, that'd be great.
There was only one question I would like to know.
If I could just get your name and address first. You can just tell
say
us,
it.
you don't have to write it.
You can just say
No,
it.
I'm
that's okay.
sorry. My name is Patricia Ross.
Yep.
I live on Hillcrest Drive on the far west side.
What's your address on Hillcrest? Your address on
I'm sorry,
Hillcrest?
1245
Thank
Hillcrest
you.
Drive.
I think
Okay.
you saw you with the resurfacing, you were here.
Yeah, I'm still here for that.
Yeah, what's your question?
Sir,
Yes.
are any of these products made in the USA that you have proposed to use?
This particular product, yes, most of it will be, so, but this particular product is only supplied by Gorick, and they are out of Massachusetts. So this is a single source provider for this one piece of equipment because it's kind of the style and look that we're going for this concept. But everything else is, more generic and can be bid on and quoted on locally for the installation of the playground.
Yes, that's what I wanted to know about USA products.
Okay.
Thank you.
You still want me to sign this piece of paper?
No, you don't need to do that. I think we're good. Right, James?
Did you say your last name is Ross? Is that what?
R-O-S-T.
Ross.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion
Anyone
to
else?
return to
Second.
regular order.
Motion by Alderman Burnett, second by Alderman Nicholson to return to regular order. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Alderman Johnson?
At what point was the design on this discussed? And in particular, this obviously looks to be a park that's being designed to be a kid-friendly amenity. And I'm thinking about what's in that area, which is businesses, commercial offices, restaurants, hotel. So I'm just kind of curious, I guess, as to the logic that was used
Sure.
to this design.
Sure, when it was presented to the park committee, it was visualized as a sculptural playground. So part of that is because of all the recent new residential that's come into the area. The other part is, when families come to the Northland Hotel, it's an attraction for them as they're coming and going from the hotel. But that's why we wanted to create a sculptural and not a traditional playground, because we agree that, you know, a traditional playground wouldn't necessarily work so well in this location if it were decks and slides. That's why this was more of a visual interest piece also. So as you're walking around it or through it, you might just think it's interesting and fun to look at it, and you might not want to climb on it. So we were trying to create something that was fun for kids, but still a sculptural amenity for, you know, people who don't have children and just walking around. So that's how this vision was produced.
As you further enhance this design, I mean, it sounds like you've got some other pieces. I mean, we talked about benches. To me, I'm trying to think about how we maximize the use of this space. And while I understand that there might be the occasional family that comes through the hotel, maybe there's a family or two that lives downtown in some of these apartment buildings. But I see the vast majority of the use of this park coming again from people who want to take a break on their lunch. So I'm just curious, I guess, what other types of enhancements might be made to this design to enhance the use of the park?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you offhand. You know, that's something we can have additional conversations on to see if this can be enhanced even more, to add different elements to this. This design is not 100% set, and we haven't bid it out for construction yet. But we do like the general concept of the mounding and the balls and creating the sculptural playground idea. You know, if there's other elements we can bring into this to enhance it that, you know, might give another reason for people to come, we can look at that. You know, one thing that comes to mind is, you know, we weren't initially going to do any electrical work, but one thing that comes to mind is there a possibility of maybe doing kind of a plug-in station for people with their cell phones? Maybe that's an option here. It would add to the cost, obviously, but that might be, you know, something that would bring others to the space to just sit and watch and just kind of enjoy the space. So something like that I could see working pretty well here. But if you have other thoughts, we're happy to entertain them and talk about it.
I think I would rely, you know, a little bit on your expertise, but maybe, look, I'm fine with this design. I like it. I like the novelty of it. I would like to maybe see some additional thought, again, given to how this space can be maximized for people who are regularly in the downtown area.
Okay.
Which of course includes both residents, you know, residents and people who are working.
Sure. Yeah, we'll give that some consideration and see what we can add to it. And
I think one note too on the history of this a little bit is just so you're aware is this isn't necessarily intended to be a 50, you know, sit here for 50 years and be a part of this area probably. You know, it's, and I don't know the big picture of what's going to go on down there, but the intention is for the downtown area to, the vision is to change a little bit. So this might be an area that doesn't exist in 7 to 10 years.
Sure.
And we didn't want to invest too much knowing that. So it's kind of that balance between how much do you invest in here and.
And I get that. I mean, you're still sticking $100,000 into a park, and it's one of those things where, gee, we can stick it into this design and watch 10 people use it, or stick it into this design and watch 100 people use it. All right.
Thank you, Alderman Burnett. Alderman Nicholson?
I was just going to decline, but I had a question for Brian, but he answered it. I'm just going to ask him if he had any suggestions. That's all, but he already engaged staff with that, so.
Any other questions from the committee? And to kind of piggyback on Alderman Burnett, we did discuss this, it was kind of at length, because, I mean, if you've served on parks at any time, you know there's projects that have been lingering out there forever, and they never seem to move up the list, and didn't want this to leapfrog anything, and so I think I actually voted against it at committee. And then when we got further clarification that the bid was paying for it, you know, I think it passed unanimously, because it wasn't jumping in over, I think it was kind of an extra project. Now, it pays to have your park by a TIF, I guess, right? I think we need to put some TIFs on the far west side. But that was kind of the history behind it. We did have a long discussion, because I mean, if you've seen the list, and we can get the list, especially, I know you've seen it, if you could provide the list again for the, you know, Brian, that'd be great.
sure.
It's a long list. Entertain a motion?
Motion to approve, that's what you're looking for, right?
Yes, I'm looking for approval to purchase the.
Motion to approve.
Motion by
Second.
Alderman Nicholson, second by Alderman Johnson to approve. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 10 is consideration with possible action on the approval to purchase an electrical scissor lift from Sunbelt Rental for $13,132.05.
So purchasing department quoted out the scissors lift purchase. It was approved in the 2018 bond request, and this would be a new piece of equipment, it's not a replacement. So the lift that was quoted out is capable of extending 26 feet tall and can be controlled from somebody who's in the top basket of the lift. And there'll be a lot of different uses that will be applicable for our park crews to use this. Everything from electrical work to plumbing work to HVAC to painters. I mean, they'll all be able to use this lift. So 16 companies submitted quotes for this. Sunbelt Rentals was the low quote for $13,132.05. Staff is recommending purchasing from the low quote. And the model that they quoted is for a 2018 Skyjack SJ111326 model. So we're looking for approval to purchase the scissor lift from Sunbelt Rental for $13,132.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Alderman Nicholson, second by Alderman Johnson. Discussion, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Informational, director's report on updates and
Yeah.
recent activities.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of summarize a few key points in our director's report. So our spring tree planting is wrapping up. 207 trees were planted, staked, and mulched along the streets and parks. Our emerald ash borer treatments started. Between 2,000 and 2,500 trees will be treated this summer. The groundbreaking ceremony for the new concession stand at Arnie Wolf Complex was on May 24th. We've been talking about that project for years, so it's finally completed. It's a great project and it'll be a great addition to the park. In addition, there was a groundbreaking ceremony for the new Baird School on May 31st, and the new Eisenhower School addition, which is being built on park property, that also had a groundbreaking for that addition also. Over at Bay Beach, we did open a new concession stand by the bumper car building and a West End train ride on Memorial Day weekend. Very successful, been doing well with both of those. The pools, wading pools, and splash pads have all opened for the season. And on June 12th, the playground program officially opened, which was what, yesterday?
Yesterday.
So the summer lunch program will be provided by the Green Bay School District beginning today. And all the meals will be served at all 36 of our supervised playground sites, and that also includes the wildlife sanctuary. So on June 19th, in the playground program, all 36 playground sites will be hosting a GB Parks RX Day with activities to promote being active and living healthy. So if you want more information on that, you can touch bases with James. We'll be hosting the Crazy Mud Mayhem Run on Saturday, June 23rd at Triangle Sports area. And then the nature-based 4K program was honored with an award for environmental education by the Brown County Conservation Alliance. So that was a big achievement. So that concludes my director's report.
Kids Day, the 25th, staying on that date, right?
Yep, Kids Day,
25th, Monday,
25th June.
It's usually a pretty busy day.
It's very busy.
Any questions, staff, on anything? All right. Entertain a motion to receive and place on file.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Nicholson, second by Alderman Burnett. Discussion, those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next park committee meeting, July 11th. I know there was some discussion on the meeting time. Were we open to moving it till 5? Was that a suggestion at the last one?
5 would work best for me.
Okay. Would that be all right with the rest of the committee?
Matter to me.
All right. If we could just,
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll note that and make the change.
I mean, I usually get here just in time today. We
Mhm.
work a little late, it's close, so 5 works great. All right, a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Nicholson,
Second.
Burnett, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Who made the motion to adjourn?
Right here.
Nicholson, Burnett.
Hey, Chris, I got a question for you. Got an issue over on Edison, Mark.
Yeah. He stated
Advertised.
last week.